In my last video, I covered what happens when college athletes graduate, the loss of structure, identity, and the mental and physical challenges that follow. But one of the most frustrating changes is how fast your fitness can fall off. Today, I'll be covering exactly why that happens and, most importantly, how to get it back on track. You trained because coaches told you, teammates were counting on you, and there was always a lift to show up for or a practice that you couldn't skip. But now, it's just you, and that shift hits hard. A 2020 study found that external accountability was directly linked to healthy behaviors, such as adherence to weight management protocols, healthy dietary choices, and a more positive psychological profile during training. The solution? Rebuilding your own accountability system from the ground up. Find local training groups, whether it's a running or cycling club, CrossFit gym, or adult rec league. Getting plugged into a group gives you a community and a sense of shared purpose. Train with a friend or partner. You're less likely to skip when someone's waiting for you at the gym. Even once a week can make a huge difference in momentum. Additionally, when it comes to things like lifting, you'll also generally be able to push it harder while maintaining safety if you have a spotter. Use Strava or other training apps. Sharing your progress on platforms like Strava or Garmin Connect doesn't just track your progress, it makes it visible to others. That added layer of social accountability often gives you the nudge you need to stay consistent. Start or join a group chat. Having a small circle of people who lift or train regularly via GroupMe, Discord, or even a text thread can be a powerful motivator. You check in, celebrate wins, and keep each other moving forward. Finally, public progress logs. Whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, or a private training blog. Putting your progress out into the world, even just for yourself, adds a sense of commitment. That's what I'll be doing here too, documenting my own training so we can stay accountable together. Pro tip, accountability doesn't just have to be external. Even just logging your own workouts in a spreadsheet or journal can create a powerful sense of follow-through. If your fitness has fallen off since graduation, it's not necessarily because of a lack of discipline. It's more a lack of accountability. Thus, rebuilding this system is imperative to your fitness success. A 40-hour work week, commuting, errands, it adds up. The biggest reason people stop training isn't laziness, it's logistics. A 2013 study found that 78.4% of athletes and 25.8% of non-athletes reported being less active post-grad than during college. For those former athletes, approximately 1/3 of them reported that they were currently inactive or had been so at one point in the past 6 months. As a general baseline rule, aim for 3 to 4 workouts per week, approximately 45 to 60 minutes in duration. For those looking to maximize that time in the gym, look to add training intensifiers such as supersets and drop sets. Supersets decrease training time by going straight from one exercise to another. This works particularly well for muscle groups that complement each other. For example, a cable lateral raise to work shoulders and a cable tricep extension to work triceps. The key is not to do this with exercises that use the same muscle group because your work capacity will be lower due to the residual fatigue from the first exercise. Next, drop sets leverage fatigue to get the most bang for your buck. The last few reps before failure provide the most stimulus for growth, and drop sets allow you to prolong the time at that point within the shortest period of time. However, because drop sets are very fatiguing, they should be used sparingly, especially for those already doing high volume training. In college, most of us didn't have to think about programming. Coaches did that. We followed the plan, showed up, worked hard, and got results. But post-graduation, you're flying solo. Writing your own programs isn't just about choosing exercises, it's about knowing what to do and how those choices lead to progress. Without foundational knowledge of training principles, like progressive overload, recovery, or periodization, it's easy to spin your wheels, or worse, burn out and give up. A 2019 study by Jonathan Evans found that structured periodization and progressive overload were superior to non-periodized resistance training for building muscular strength. These findings held true irrespective of training volume or training age. So let's break that down. Okay, let's say you've started a training program. But now how do you actually know that you're progressing each week? Enter double progression, one of the simplest and most effective methods for progressive overload. Here's how it works. First, pick a rep range for a lift, let's say 8 to 12 reps. Then stick with the same weight until you can hit the top end of that range for all of your sets. Once you hit that, increase the weight slightly and drop back to the low end of your range. Then rinse and repeat that cycle. For example, you might start with the incline dumbbell press with 50s for 8 reps. Over time, you'll get to 3 sets of 12. Then you bump it up to 55s and go back to 8 reps. I recommend using this progression system for all of your lifts. Simply choose a rep range that corresponds to your goals on that exercise, such as roughly 4 to 6 reps for strength focus, or 8 to 12 reps for hypertrophy, although these ranges will vary depending on the movement. It avoids the ego trap of always chasing heavier and heavier weights by keeping you in the optimal hypertrophy range, thereby building both your strength and your muscular endurance. A 2017 study found that training close to failure in a moderate rep range led to similar hypertrophy across different loads. So, progression doesn't have to mean maxing out every single week. For long-term health, it is important to engage in both resistance training and cardio. But to see the best results, there are a few general guidelines to keep in mind. First, separate cardio and lifting by 6 or more hours to mitigate the impact of the interference effect and see the best gains. Additionally, managing total training volume and fatigue to ensure proper recovery for the next workout. An example of how this could work would be lifting 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, with cardio sessions on Wednesday and Friday and an optional one on Sunday. This allows you to use Monday as a rest day to get recharged for the week. This hybrid model helps you build both strength and muscle mass while maintaining your cardiovascular health in a relatively time-flexible plan. In season, off season, preseason, different training for different adaptations. This is a process that every athlete is familiar with. And there's a reason for that. It works. For trained athletes, it makes sense to reintroduce this periodization process in your training post-graduation. Another 2022 study highlights the increased strength building capabilities of both linear and undulating periodization. One way to build periodization into your program now is to follow a basic schedule that looks something like this. A 4-week strength cycle with a 2-week endurance and recovery phase built in at the end. This keeps your progress sustainable, reducing burnout, and matching real-life constraints like work, vacations, or busy seasons. Whether it's getting back into shape or hitting new PRs, it's important to understand that these things don't happen overnight. Especially right after college, on 5 hours of sleep and with no team guidance, the importance of reframing expectations during athletic identity transitions cannot be emphasized enough. The solution is to track improvement in a new way. Rather than comparing to your old PRs, instead focus on setting goals for consistency, new activities, and improved form. Personally, for those just getting back into it, I recommend specific process-based goals, such as to work out 4 days a week for the next month, before progressing to performance-based goals. You can add to this by setting a goal to record all of your workouts in whatever form you like best. Some examples include Excel, a notebook, or tracking apps like Strong. If you'd like me to cover the goal-making process in more depth in the future, let me know down in the comments. If you've lost progress, it's not a failure, it's just a reset. With smart planning, well-defined goals, and shared accountability, you can build a stronger version of yourself, one that fits this new phase in your life. In upcoming videos, I'll break down the best activities for adults, as well as how to design your own programs, hybrid training weeks, and find your next big goal. If this sounds like something that appeals to you, stick around and hit subscribe. Let's build this together.